Joining us for this panel. Over the past few years, the global connectivity map has been redrawn. In this panel, we're going to be talking about the rise of Eastern European terrestrial corridors. We have several Eastern European experts, who work in Eastern Europe. They're not all Eastern European. So we've seen new routes emerging from the Middle East to Turkey into Central and Eastern Europe at a time when geopolitical and subsea risks are redrawing how networks connect Asia, Europe, and beyond. I have a rough draft of how I want this conversation to go. We're going to be talking about geopolitical risks and route resilience, then hyperscalers, economics, investment, technology, and then we're going to go on to future outlook. Hopefully we should have some time for audience questions at the end. There's going to be a Slido app, I believe, that you can scan. We can start with the introductions first. We'll start with you, Albert, and then go down if that's okay.
Okay. Hi, my name is Albert Kish. I'm Group Chief Infrastructure and Wholesale Officer at 4iG Group. We are originating from Hungary. We've been active on this Central Eastern European transit market for like 20 plus years now, and we started extending our operations in the Balkans early, and happy to be here.
Hi, my name is Anna Nakashita. I'm CEO of Fast Telecom, part of Nexol Holding that is leading the Digital Silkway project connecting Asia and Europe.
Hello, I'm Dominik Drozdowski. I'm CEO of Hava Telecom. We are a Polish-based company. We are owner of dark fiber in Poland. We are connecting Poland to neighborhood countries, to Germany, Czech Republic. We are just we are connection between East and West, so I think that's a good place to go.
Hello, I'm Neven Dilkov. I'm the founder and CEO of Neterra. We're a Sofia-based business with global operations, and I'm happy to be here.
Hi, this is Arman Ünal. I work for Türk Telekom International. Our company is mainly operating in Central and Eastern Europe and also Turkey. I'm leading pricing, source procurement, and product management operations in the company. Thanks.
I was talking to the panelists before we jumped on stage, and it was clear that their favorite topic of all the ones that we're going to cover is geopolitical risk and route resilience. I think most of them wanted to say something on that. So opening up to the panel first, how have the Red Sea and Baltic Sea incidents changed the strategic importance of terrestrial corridors in the East?
Go.
Okay, we talk a lot about Red Sea and the Strait. Even though if we look at, based on statistics, the number of fiber cuts on the subsea systems haven't increased, despite the fact that there is much more subsea cable. But obviously there is a high level of sensitivity, because whenever these cuts happen, the capacities are higher and the impact is higher. So the whole industry is dealing with this, and diversity. Obviously there is latency. Latency has to be very low. The other thing is diversity and reliability. And I think we all agree that in this scheme of works, like alternative routes in Central Eastern Europe are crucial, because some of the alternatives that are for the Red Sea traffic would bring the traffic into the terrestrial routes in further eastern part of Europe, and all that traffic has to be carried towards west on the networks that these companies provide. So we believe that we can be an important part of that game. So.
Well, I would pick up where Albert has led to. I think it's beyond Baltics and Red Sea, because we've seen major geopolitical shifts. And these geopolitical shifts obviously affect the international connectivity. So we've seen in many other industries as well, where the middle corridor has become of higher importance, and probably the highest at this point, where it opens the door for the new corridor build-up. So this is where we step in, basically to provide an alternative corridors for the southern and the Middle East, as well as for east to west connectivity as well. And as far as I've seen, it is getting more and more complicated. So we are not seeing, it is getting easier with the new polarities in the global geopolitics and new interests and new tariff regimes and new kind of restrictions into cooperations, whether that would be a technical or beyond. What we see as the business that it has become more difficult, but at the same time, there is an opportunity. So there is another way to look at it. That when there are restrictions, that there are new opportunities and new windows or the doors opening. So I think the importance on this side of the industry is to seize that moment and to deliver these new opportunities.
Yeah, I think that we had quite a few incidents on Baltic Sea. And I think that it drives the demand for terrestrial roads. We even decided to build a new link to Lithuania, connecting Poland with Lithuania, because I don't know whether you know, but from the geographic point of view, we have something which is called Suwalki corridor, which is about 100 kilometer gap between Russia and Belarus, connecting Poland to Lithuania and then to Latvia and Estonia. So there is not a lot of place to put additional fibers, but we see growing demand. We see growing demand for diverse route, for resilience, and from this point of view, I think it's driving our business. Although I agree with you that it's becoming more and more complicated.
It is a known fact that Eastern Europe in the past 20 years has been growing tremendously, much faster than the Western European countries. I have some data that I could share, of course, but in the past 20 years alone, the Bulgarian GDP per capita has grown 6.5 times. Just for comparison, the Singapore GDP for the same period has grown 2 times. The demand of capacity in terms of generated traffic and consumed traffic has been growing faster than most other regions in the world, especially compared to Western Europe. So it is a mystery for me why the infrastructure between the Eastern European countries hasn't caught up. And I have brought with me a map here, which I printed out from the website of the International Telecommunication Union, ITU. It shows the fiber networks in Eastern Europe, blue lines. You probably cannot see it from out there, but I can share it after that, and you can also access it on the web. Right now, the amount of traffic that goes north-south here is already more than the capacity of a single DWDM network, which means that is measured by the tens of terabits. And all this traffic right now goes to Frankfurt and then back again. Frankfurt and back again, Frankfurt and back again. Why does it not go north-south? Because it can't. It cannot. If you look carefully, here between Slovakia and Poland, for example, you will see that there is no single fiber interconnection between these two countries. Even if the commercial conditions are right, it's not possible to get any traffic this way. And considering that the Russian threat is not going to go away anytime soon, the interconnection between these countries, starting from the Baltics down to Bulgaria and Greece, and possibly down to Egypt, connecting with Asia, is becoming more and more important from a network point of view. There is high pressure from hyperscalers. There is normal pressure from companies like regular telecom operators that want to have better networks and provide better services. And on top of that, there is enough financing from the European Commission on a high level to finance projects like that. We at Neterra have started the conversations a couple of years ago with multiple operators along this route, and we didn't get anywhere until now, at least. So I think there is a lot to be done, and there is, the conditions are right for such investment and for such development, and it will. And the guys that will move first are probably the ones that will benefit the most.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. I know the problem because we were discussing about this north-south link for quite a long of time. There is a problem with business case because if we want to connect to Slovakia, there's a lot of business in the east side of Slovakia. And then you have to find a business somewhere to the south, in Romania, Bulgaria, or Turkey. And that's the problem of Europe. I mean, we are fragmented continent. It's much easier to build something in the US because you are working in one country. And if you have several countries, it's always more difficult.
I would argue against, because we have projects in the United States and in other places. I can tell you that building something in Eastern Europe is much faster and much easier than most other places, including the United States. United States is a quagmire of regulations. Every state has different regulation. Every county has different regulation, and you have to comply with all those before you even start digging anything. And it's not pleasant at all. What we can do in Bulgaria for 1.5 years, people do in other places for 5 years and for 3 times more the money. So we are in a good shape. It's the possibility and the market opportunity is there. Not because I have imagining about, but I can show you all the data, and you don't need to look for business in Slovakia, which is obviously a small country, but just thinking about the traffic that needs to go north-south from end to end, and even from there to Asia Pacific, you will see that there is enough business to switch from going to Frankfurt, going straight, and this will justify, it's not even investment. There is a very small piece of investment that needs to be done. But all these operators can just agree to have a pair of fibers under one management, and that's something that can be agreed in 3 months' time, and they will have it.
Yeah, what I want to add here is that we, as TTI, saw the effects of Red Sea incident more compared to Baltic Sea because of our region, and it showed to the market that before the incidents happen, we should have our backup plans and produce projects and install cables accordingly, because what we have is Amir 2 cable that's bypassing Saudi Peninsula, and when there is an issue, an incident on Red Sea, we saw increase in the demand to that cable. Also, where was Ukraine and Russia dispute, we also had increase in demand for our terrestrial cables passing through Turkey. So, as the whole industry, these incidents are showing that before the incident happens, we have to collaborate and find alternative routes and invest accordingly. Otherwise, when the incident happens, that's a bit of chaos, and you don't know when the subsea cables will be repaired and when the geopolitical risk will be over. So that's unforeseen feature, and that's negatively affecting our business.
Again, I want to stay with you for this one, if you don't mind. Turkey is obviously strategically located and kind of acts as a bridge between the Middle East and Europe. Are you seeing an increase in demand or pricing premium for these secure bypass routes?
In fact, we saw increase in demand, but in terms of pricing premium, we haven't seen. The reason behind that is, you have to have your projects before the incidents, and if it's a good alternative, you have to do the pricing premium before anything happens. Since we are in contact with our partners continuously to improve backbones, they know our pricing, they know how much we will offer. And if there's an incident and we change the pricing, that's not fair. So we focus on long-term relationships, and we don't want to utilize that incident and increase the prices. What we see is, unfortunately, in capacity business, prices are going down. You try to compensate that with the increasing volume. Otherwise, these incidents from our side didn't help us, or we didn't prefer to increase the prices on our routes.
And then, Anna, I want to come to you. We were talking a little bit earlier about Azerbaijan and where it's kind of placed. How has recent subsea disruptions kind of changed the perspective of terrestrial routes through the regions? Have you got feedback from your customers or maybe from hyperscalers?
Well, I think there is how the ignorance of certain geography or the regions in general, right? In terms of again, I will go beyond the disruptions, and I will go beyond that because I think we have more of the basic shifts that we have in the geography and basic shifts in the market. And when we are talking with the hyperscalers or we are talking to different market players, we are trying to bring the attentions to the geographies that were not previously covered. That's what we are. We call ourselves the market opener or the connector between Asia and Europe. One of the issues is that although we had been talking about the Turkish transit, we had been talking Eastern European transit, but so far as we see, there is not much of the competitive offering in the hybrid routes or the effective routes in terms of the latency and the pricing. And therefore, the demand on these routes are very low compared to the submarine and other routes. So I think there is pretty much of the innovation gap there or the market approach gap where we have to step in and provide the solutions because the hyperscalers are driving demand, definitely, and there are the geographies that are opening up for the entry.
So maybe just one thing to add, I think at the end of the day, I do appreciate Neven, there is a north-south traffic as well, but the massive part of the traffic that we talk about is Asia-Europe traffic, let's say later on potentially East Africa-Europe traffic. And we all know that the default scenario for this traffic is through the Mediterranean Sea going to Marseille, some part to Italy. And I think all of us here, we try to propose some kind of an alternative for that traffic, that the concentration in Marseille is just massive. Luckily nothing happened there, but is there a guarantee that it will stay like that? So, for example, that's why we are also opening Albania as an entry point in Europe and try to open, similar to what Anna and the Central Asia part we are doing, just try to open complete new areas where these potential information highways can pass through. Also for diversity, but also with respect to the development of those given areas. So we are building a cable, Eagle cable from Egypt to Albania. We plan to pass that traffic through the Balkan countries where none of the intercontinental traffic passes those countries. So in terms of future development of data centers, ecosystems there, I think this is really important that some of those traffics also go through areas that are not part of those highways as of today.
The funny thing is that everybody is talking about the resiliency and redundancy, and if you want to build something new and provide a new route, and they ask, but it is going to be the same short route like the primary one, and I say, no, we are not able, we will add 100 kilometers, and they say, no, so we prefer the first one. So I don't fully understand why, especially Asian customers, are so focused on latency. We've recently even redesigned network in Warsaw in order to cut 12 kilometers, which means 0.12 milliseconds. And they really appreciate it. I really don't understand it, but especially Asian customers are so latency focused. Well, everybody speaks about resiliency, but at the end they are preferring to have the shorter memory.
If I would address that, I think with all the talks that we've had, I think it's a combination or the compromise between the latency and the pricing. And obviously when it comes to terrestrial, the pricing is higher than the submarine part. And if they can avail themselves the low prices on the submarine and long latency, they would try to get as best as possible where they pay more, right? So there is always this compromise where the Southeast Asian and East Asian countries have invested hugely on the submarine part, and they have like good availability and the pricing there. So if they are getting something better, how better it can be? So that's the question combined versus the pricing. So that was the discussions on the sides that we have on the other side.
And in terms of latency, customers will always require more, because as the latency goes down, most probably new apps, new games, new platforms will be launched, and they will ask for more. Even if it's zero, then they will be satisfied. But with all these new technological improvements, a customer will never say that's enough. That's the problem of our industry. We have to work hard and try to find solutions for our customers in terms of latency. Either it's subsea or terrestrial.
I want to hone in a little bit on the hyperscaler influence, if you guys don't mind. And I actually do like this audience question that has come in. It says, do you see a growing interest from hyperscalers in international routes reaching Eastern Europe that require cross-border connectivity? I'm opening up to this panel. Who wants to tackle that one first?
For sure, from my point of view, for last few years, we see Warsaw as one of the points when the hyperscalers are starting to build their DCs. It started with, I think, Google building an opening region in Warsaw. Then the Microsoft came, and they are driving demand. I mean, in terms of dark fiber, we see demand. They want to connect their existing data center. Now they are building a lot in Finland, so we hope there will be demand for more routes, for more fibers. Yeah, I think it's driving our business. From the other side, we have a war in Ukraine, and we have some kind of sinusoid. I mean, if something happens, then we feel that the climate is a little bit colder, and if there is a silence and no any strange things happening, like drones in Warsaw, then if it's not happening, then we think that the climate is becoming warmer, and they're coming back to discussions. So it's difficult.
So when it comes to hyperscalers, as said, and as initially discussed, geopolitics or geography of our route is extremely complex. It is hybrid route. There's 2 submarine parts. There are different countries in different regions in Central Asia and South Caucasus. So if you look from the hyperscaler perspective, South Caucasus is too small of a region. And definitely, there is not something that they would extend to unless there is something beyond. But we've already started the discussions, and it's definitely something that we want to explore and capitalize on, to cross-border connectivity, definitely cross-regional connectivity, Central Asia, South Caucasus, and Eastern Europe, to connect these 3 parts into one route and get hyperscalers on board as well.
I just fully agree with Anna, and especially focusing on Central Eastern Europe and the Balkans area. Most of those countries, Poland, let's say that's an exception from that perspective, but size-wise, these countries are small. So typically, they are not top interest countries on a standalone basis for the OTTs. But I mean, the kind of region-to-region traffic of the OTTs, somehow those have to be connected. If someone opens a region in Athens, let's say, that region has to be connected to the European main nodes. Like, okay, how? Typically what they say, okay, we want to have 3-4 alternative routes. So if you want to have 3-4 alternative routes, then most probably 1, 2, 3 out of that will be RAN route, and that will generate demand. So, I mean, this region, without the OTTs and the hyperscalers, I mean, let's be honest, like the big traffic growth comes from them. So, I mean, if that doesn't have an impact on our business, then I think we will have a reasonably big problem. So I think it's an absolute yes to the question.
I agree with Albert. The growth in the industry is mainly coming from hyperscalers in Eastern or Central Europe, or in Turkey, or in Iraq. You know, that's a popular route right now. The amount of capacity that they require is huge, and with the 3 or 4 alternative routes, that's tripling or quadrupling the demand. As international carriers, we are utilizing that, but what we see in the market is they are mainly turning into dark fiber. So that's another threat that we should think about and discuss in the industry, because most of the hyperscalers are, instead of requesting capacity, they are turning into dark fiber, and they are building their own network and managing their own network by themselves.
Neven?
I am not sure why we're discussing hyperscalers so much. I think that hyperscalers for the past even less than 10 years, they have learned their lesson well, and whatever they need, they just build it and buy it. And if they need capacity, they buy dark fiber, and they put whatever they need on that, and it runs. If they need to put their servers somewhere, they build their 8 megawatt data centers, and they put their servers in it. There is very little business for telecom operators there. You know, if there is something, it is the peanuts and, you know, the crumbles that is left. And it's really funny to me that the telecom operators are getting excited about it. I think it's a waste of time. Of course, there is business that it's left, but it's been years since the official statistics show that more than half of the global data center capacity is owned by hyperscalers. Now, I think more than 60-70% of the total traffic is running on hyperscalers, their own networks. This is in Mars. This is not on Earth. They're living in their own bubble, and we are outside of it. And so I think we should focus on our own business more than talking about hyperscalers. They know what they're doing, and they're not interested in us.
Well, I would agree that they're big. I would agree that they're dominating. But that's exactly why you cannot ignore them. There are the 900-pound gorilla in the room, and you have to deal with them. And that's why you are kind of opening the door and trying to explore what is the cooperation, because they generate and they carry the traffic, right? So, and when it comes to the different geographies, maybe from the EU perspective, it's easy, but it's not that easy for hyperscalers to come in and open a data center and explore new regions. They have like 5-10 years of the planning span. And this is exactly, I think, for the Eastern Europe or beyond in our region to explore the timeline or the gap to explore what are the opportunities for the companies like ours and the routes.
5 years is nothing. I mean, you know, your kids will be, grown and out of school in 5 years, and you'll forget about that. So they will get there. They will build their own data centers. They will do whatever they need.
As long as I make margins and good returns.
Don't bank on that. Find other margins is my advice.
You know, at the end they need network, and I don't think they're going to build, dig and lay the ducts in Poland, Slovakia and Czech Republic. They need somebody to provide them with the network.
Of course they need.
It's a part of my business.
Of course, and they'll come and buy it, and it will finish. You know, the only thing that that they will hire. After that, it's a couple of construction workers going around checking fiber. That's it.
I don't think they are going to hire construction workers in Europe. They need somebody.
Two of them, or three maybe, per territory.
Okay, let's move on. Let's move on from hyperscalers. We're talking way too much about hyperscalers at the moment, I think. Neven will agree with that one. Anna, coming to you, I want to talk about kind of investment and market consolidation. What are investors telling you about the risk of appetite in the region? And has the perception of fiber investment changed over the last couple of years at all? Anna.
To me, okay. So definitely it has changed. It has become more competitive. The dominance in the Eastern markets and beyond have changed, right? So investors are more cautious about the the progress and the possibilities on the returns, and it is becoming more and more difficult. But at the same time, on the other side of the coin, there are new opportunities that are opening up. But even there, when you're talking about non-strategic investors and financial investors, it is becoming very, very difficult. Because they obviously, when it comes to new regions, they are talking about pre-sales, they are talking about guarantees, they are talking about certain measures, where you cannot really do that. Because you don't know if you are developing new route. What would exact availability be? What would be the statistics of the cable cuts? And therefore, yes, indeed, it is becoming difficult. Would you like to come on?
You know, I'm quite new in this business. I mean, I started something 15 years ago. So when I started, I always heard that the consolidation is coming. And in Poland, for example, we used to have about 5,000 ISPs, and now we have about 2,000. So we have consolidation, but it's still a lot. And if you are talking about long haul, I've seen a project like this that some fund or some international company is buying assets in East Europe, and they are hiring 1 or 2 or 3 workers in one country and trying to manage and build a network in this country. In my opinion, it's not working. You need to have the local expertise. You need to take into the account all the formalities, the legal side of the business, which is usually, at least in Poland and in European Union, very complicated. So there will be some consolidation, but I don't think that we will have a few global or European players taking majority of the market.
Just one thing with regards to the investment appetite. So I think still there are many investors who are focusing on infrastructure. So they just want to have something tangible. And if you look at, obviously tower stories is a different story, but even the fiber stories are pretty big stories still in Europe, and I think in further eastern part of the region as well. So, I mean, that's on the positive side. And on the other side, I agree with Anna that when you deploy complete new projects, then obviously you will face these investors kind of trying to cover all those risks in a matter that in case of new projects, let's put it this way, it's not simple. So that's kind of a bit of a contradiction between the two, but I see these two trends. Yeah.
From operator perspective, one point that I want to highlight is the telco operators have one capex budget, and the management is generally deciding on ROI. And when they do invest to FTTH, the ROI is better compared to international transit capacity investment. So investment funds, the companies that are funded by those investment funds are more focusing on international transit capacity. Their only business is this, and they are investing money to that. But local telco operators, they have to think both sides, and if the investment decision is made by just on ROI, then as international carriers, we are losing.
So then, opening up to the panel, Armageddon, maybe we can start with you from the operator perspective. Are we expecting consolidation from regional operators in Eastern Europe?
We expect, but local expertise is still valuable, and we will have some local players in the market. But consolidation is, we cannot get rid of that. We see that it will happen.
I want to go to the audience question. I'm aware that we're running out of time over here, and I want to get through all of the audience questions if we don't mind. I haven't even got through half of the topics, which you could say is a good thing, because the conversation has been flowing wonderfully. So the historic rate of cable cuts in Eastern Europe is higher than the industry average in Western Europe, ignoring Italy. How do you propose to improve this? Who wants to take a stab at that one?
That's
I think we are in this business for like 20, 30 years, and I think it depends like where is the border of Eastern Europe. I think traditionally, if you look back now 10, 15, 20 years, there was significant improvement in these parts of the world in terms of resiliency of the networks. And there are more and more resilient networks in the whole region, and maybe compared to Germany, I looked at end-to-end routes earlier, Istanbul to Germany, and we looked at failure rates on the whole route. Let's say 2 routes, Istanbul, Germany, it's like more than 5,000 kilometers. And yes, there were some pain points in those routes, but I would not say that this is absolutely a valid statement now that the massive part of the problem is in Eastern Europe. So I think it has improved significantly.
I think major portion of the fiber cuts in Eastern Europe are done because of construction, and specifically because the dude with the tractor on Monday morning at 9 o'clock doesn't have a clue that where he's digging, that there's a fiber underground. And a couple of years ago, the European Union implemented a law about the infrastructure everywhere in the European Union, which includes provisions for the creation of the single information point, that's how it's called, where all the operators that are building infrastructure should put data about their infrastructure, and it's an open access, everyone can check it. That process is long and slow because people have to, companies have to voluntarily put the data in it. But the more data is in that, single information points, it will be the easier for the construction companies and people who are following the rules, of course, to check and know what's, where not to dig and what to do. So there is a proper regulation there that is coming, that's in force already, and there will be less such incidents. Of course, there will be, if somebody still makes a mistake, you cannot avoid that, but at least there will be a legal ground to seek seek penalties and punishment, which of course is a big deterrent for the anyone from the construction business to do stupid things. So I think there is those things are moving in the right direction.
I think this is an improvement on the eastern side of the Europe, but the main reason is major infrastructure projects are being carried out, like highways, railways, and I think the local operators should create awareness within the country for the municipalities or the local governors that fiber cables are something significant. That's not like gas pipeline, they do not boom, but whenever there's a cut, that's affecting the life of not just the citizens of that country, but the other countries. So we should push more for the awareness and collaboration with the local authorities.
You know, my colleague once told me a story. They had their link alongside the railroad, and they had a lot of fiber cuts, a few cuts weekly, and they decided to meet with the guys who were modernizing this road, and they talked to them and they said, listen, we have EU funding, we have timeline, and we have budget for all the fines we have to pay, but we have money we have to spend. So as long as we have the construction work in Poland, as long as we have as we're building new motorways, new railroads, modernizing railroad, we will have more fiber cuts. In Eastern Europe, you have quite a lot of infrastructure, and you have quite a lot of fibers along existing infrastructure. And usually this infrastructure is safer than the infrastructure which is along something which is modernized or already being built.
And just final point, because I'm aware that we've run out of time. I can't believe how fast it's gone, so final point to you.
Well, I just wanted to make the final remark was that, let's be practical. Like, protection on the physical level, very costly, practically impossible. And, as an engineer, faults happen. It will happen. Mistakes will happen. So from the pure application and the planning purposes, as long as there is a diverse infrastructure and you can deploy several routes and create resilience, as a kind of a network, that's the only way to do that. Nevertheless, the regulations that are in place, it will happen still. So as much as possible, competition and the diversity, or the solution, or the medicine.
I think we needed another hour to talk about this. But thank you so much for the time, guys. Really appreciate your insights. Can we get a round of applause for the panelists, if you don't mind? And thank you for listening.
Yes. Thank you so much to our wonderful panel, and thank you for joining us today in the auditorium. We'll be back here from 9:30 tomorrow morning for our GrowthX program, so I look forward to seeing you there. Thank you so much for your time. Have a good evening.